Fishing the moment. How many people have ever heard this statement called fishing the moment? Right there. Few people, okay? And I really feel like this is the last frontier of fishing, right? It's like, what makes a guy like Van Dam so good? What do you think makes him so good?
Tenacity.
Gymnastics? What? Gymnastics.
And gymnastics.
And gymnastics. Couldn't do that. What else? Hard work. Time on the water. Confidence. All those things make him good. But I think what gets a guy to the next level, what gets an angler to the next level, is this thing called fishing the moment. Which all that means, it means making decisions on the water. And I can tell you, I've been doing it long enough to know that there's guys that stand out there that are the best at doing it. Ski, Kevin. Those guys that always catch them are the best at making decisions in fishing the moment. So let's start by talking about that. How many people, be honest now, how many of you believe there's luck involved in fishing? Be honest, it's okay. Keep up for a second. About half the room. That's normally what we get. Half of the room think that luck's involved in fishing. You think there's luck involved in fishing? Probably not. Okay. I'm going to tell you something. I used to really believe when I was younger that there was luck involved in fishing. The more that I do it now, the more that I don't think luck's involved. So, you know, the definition of luck is one thing, right? Is it lucky right now that ceiling fan doesn't come down and behead me? It's not really luck. You know, it's just what's going to happen. And that's what I think is involved in fishing. To me, fishing, the essence of fishing the moment, this essence of what we're going to talk about, involves taking luck out of the equation. It involves analyzing everything that happens on the water and then making decisions based off of those things, right? So the hardest thing in fishing the moment is not fishing history, right? How many of you fish the same body of water every year? I do. Your favorite lakes, your favorite ponds, right? And if you go there in June, your favorite place, you know where they're going to be. You know, right? You know that one log over there where they're going to eat. You know. And that history is human nature. We all have that. You know, it's positive reinforcement. So you go out and you practice for the big derby that you're going to fish. And you go out on Saturday before the Sunday tournament. You get out there and you jack them in 20 foot of water on this subtle drop. Man, you got it. The next day you go out and it's so burned in your mind that you get out there, you get on that spot, and 4 hours later you've only got a couple little ones. You're still there. It's human nature that's sticking you on that spot, staying you, keeping you. But what about when we're fun fishing? What about when you go to a new body of water, there's no pressure on you? You're out there, you're having fun, nothing matters, there's no pressure, points or pounds. What do you do? Usually always catch them, right? I can tell you, when I'm fun fishing, I jack them. But what happened at St. John's River a couple weeks ago in the first league tournament? I stunk it up. Why does that still happen after all these years of fishing? And it's what I just talked about. I can sit up here and talk about it, but I'm always drawn back to your history. Right? So here's what fishing the moment is. Fishing the moment essentially means getting out there, dropping your trolling motor, launching the boat, and you're fishing for that cast at that moment in time. That's all. You've got to not forget about your history, right? But you're using your history, you're using your practice day, using all that as a template. But ultimately, you're trying to fish the moment, right? And every cast is a piece of information. When you're doing this thing called fishing the moment, there's never a wasted cast, right? So you get this tube, and you start going out there, and you're flipping docks with that tube. You skip it way back over those docks because you just know it's post-spawn, they should be on these docks, and you're working it. And you go down a row of about 20 docks, and you look, and you got just a little bit of a bird's nest there. So you're like, how do we get rid of this thing? You just make a bomb cast out the back of the boat, get that thing out of there. Got that little bird's nest out of there, you reel it up. And as you go to reel it in, you pick up the slack, your mind's like, and you're like, take pictures. You let that smallmouth go, and what do? You reel up your line, and go right back. What a dummy I am. And I used to do that a lot. I used to do that all the time. Until I really started paying attention to this thing called fishing the moment, this theory that there's no luck. Was that luck when I did that tube out there in the 3 pounders from off of it? Out there? There's a learning moment. Again, we could argue this all day, but I don't believe it was luck. I believe it was a piece of the puzzle, right? And so that's what it is. So every cast is a piece of the puzzle. When you make a cast out there to that dock, and you work it, you reel all the way back and you don't get a bite, that's okay too, because that's information. And then you go to the next dock and you work it a different way. And then now you start fishing the break, or now you start fishing. And when you get that first bite, that's your first piece of the puzzle, right? So in fishing the moment, everything's new. It's always fresh, right? You've got history and you've got all those years of watching Jimmy Houston and Bill Vance and all your articles, all the information. I still do all that. That's your template. That's your basis. But you're fishing the moment. Every little piece of information is a piece of the puzzle. And the guys that consistently do that, can do that every day, are the guys that catch it. It's amazing to me, a tournament that Kevin won on Kentucky Lake a couple years back, ledge fishing. He ran all the way down south of where we launched Paris Landing to fish this ledge out 20 foot of water. The day before, he cranked up like 20 pounds there. Unbelievable giant bag. He went back there, ran all the way down there, camera guys on him. Gets out there, starts cranking. And here's how he cranks it, right? Right out there. And like 15 minutes in, cranking this ledge that he just caught 20 pounds on the day before. So burned in his mind. 15 minutes in, he goes, nah, ain't happening. Puts the rod up, gets in, and drives like an hour to a totally different spot up lake. That's the kind of things like fishing the moment. You know what I mean? Like he was getting information wasn't right, went to do something else. You know, forgetting about his history. That's fishing the moment. And every little piece of information is a piece of that puzzle. How many of you grew up in the 80s? 80s babies. Remember the Rubik's Cube? Did you ever figure that thing out once? I used to pick the darn stickers off and make it look like a solid. Look, there's something! All the stickers are all half off. But you know, that puzzle, it reminds me a lot of what we're trying to do with fishing the moment. So when you get that piece of information, when you went to throw it out there, you got your backslash out and you caught that first fish, instead of just holding it up and smiling and letting it go, stop. At that very moment, stop and say, okay, what was the deal here, right? Why did that happen? I threw that tube out there. You know, first thing I do before I even look at that is I get that smallmouth and I want to look at that fish, right? Get that fish, I look at it, I look down his throat. I'm a big believer in trying to figure out what that fish is eating, right? Look down his throat. If I see something sticking out of there, I'll get my pliers, I'll pull it out, you know, look at it. What's he feeding on? If I don't see nothing in his throat, this is going to sound weird. I'm from New Jersey, so I'm kind of a little weird, but I'll feel that fish's belly. How many people do that? It's all right. See? I feel the belly, right? Feel that fish's belly. You know, is it crunchy? Is he eating crawfish? Is there one deal? Like, can you turn an object end on end? It's a perch or a range forage, you know, sunfish. Is it soft? It's feeding on owlite or herring or small shiners or whatever. I look down his throat, feel his belly, then I'll let the fish go. Then I immediately want to say, why did that just happen, right? I threw out there. Why was that fish out there? You know, I'm not thinking it's luck. There's a reason that fish was out there. And then I start analyzing it, you know. Oh, okay, I see. I made that cast out there. There's actually a weed break out there, right? There's a weed edge. That fish is sitting on that weed edge. Go out and look at it with the depth finder, and then use that to build that puzzle, right? So it's like that Rubik's Cube. That accidental cast, that 3-pound smallmouth, was you putting one side of that color together, or one row of colors. And then you define it, you know? Maybe it's a crankbait out there in that zone. That's a better search bait. And then maybe it's only reed points. And then it's this window, as it starts getting more narrow, and you start getting more focused on what to do, it's that puzzle being solved. And then, you know, the perfect day is when, and how many of you had those days where it seems like everything you do is right? There's a couple. Yeah? You know what I'm talking about. In the zone. Yeah? They're awesome days. And that's you solving that puzzle. You know what I mean? Those perfect days, and I've been fortunate to have a few in my life, when you're so dialed that everything you do is right, that you hold that little scoop up and you solve it. All the colors are there. That's fishing the moment. You know, that's deep. I mean, that's deep stuff, and that's going to take you to the next level of your fishing. You know, we talk about rods and reels and baits and line. We're going to talk about that today. But that mental side, you know, opening yourself up to fishing the moment. There is no accidental bite. Every bite's a piece of information. By doing that, you're going to become a better angler. Do you believe me? It's true. Ask Rick Clun.